Hello, guys, and welcome back to Sweet Dreams Anesthesia. Today, we are joined by Peter and Justin, who have passed the primary exam. Thanks, guys, for joining me. A huge accomplishment. Congratulations, guys. You both smashed it. No doubt, barring you guys, that you guys would get through. We just kind of wanted to go through a few of the tips that you picked up on the day and maybe give some tips to some candidates that are sitting right now or starting to study. So how did the day feel for you, Justin?
Yeah, it was very nerve-wracking actually. And it was as you described in your first podcast, exactly the same way. So candidates can listen to that podcast if they want to know what to expect. But overall, it's really well run. The examiners were all they were all very nice actually. I didn't have any too stern or too cold ones.
Yes.
And they really help you through the viva as well. So it was a pretty good experience.
Yeah. And you went on the first day, and Peter, you went on the last day. Did you get any tips from other people, or were you just trying to stay in your own zone, not trying to figure out what the past vivas were going to be like?
No, I was just kind of, I don't think there was going to be much that was going to change anything in the, day or two leading up to it. So I just kind of isolated and just chilled out.
Yeah. I'm just really interested to see what you guys did the night before, because I know I couldn't sleep the night before. How did you guys go the night before preparing? Were you studying, or did you just kind of zone out?
I didn't do any wasn't so all I did was I went through all the LOs quickly. I just kind of read through all of them and made sure that I had something to say about everything, or there was nothing that could blindside me. But I wasn't really doing much, proper vibing or textbook practice or anything like that.
Yeah. What about you, Justin?
I did nothing. I went for a walk with Connie in the city, and then we had Italian food for dinner, and then I just went to bed.
Yeah, nice. Do you guys remember what your opening questions were, or have you guys completely forgotten already?
I do remember, actually. I recorded it.
Yeah, I've got mine recorded as well.
What were they?
So I had for my first viva, what is half-life?
Yeah.
Second one was what is ultrasound?
Yeah.
And then the last one, I'm just trying to think what the last one was now. And then what is an isomer was the last one.
Yeah. How about yourself, Justin?
So my first one was, you are at a cardiac arrest. How do you confirm that you've intubated the patient?
Yeah.
Second one was, you're performing a cesarean section. What are the drugs you would use normally intrathecally? And the last one was, what was my last one? What are some drugs that increase vascular tone?
What did you feel from the examiners? Were the examiners very intimidating, or was it very similar to your practice vivas? I just want to know what the feel was. Justin, maybe you go first.
Yeah, actually, it was quite different to what practice vivas are like, because practice vivas, people often kind of brush you off or just keep going on with the viva in a sense, because they're just reading off the piece of paper. Whereas in the actual exam, they ask quite specific questions and wanted specific answers.
Yeah.
And they would ask you the same question again if you didn't answer what they wanted.
Yeah. So did you find that if it was a really important point, they would keep trying to ask it in different ways? Did you get that sense feeling? Yeah. How about you, Pete? How did you find it compared to the practice vivas?
Yeah, I thought it definitely felt different. I don't know if it was just because it was the nerves of the day or whatnot, but I felt the examiners were really good at extracting information out of you that other people that you practice with weren't able to.
Yeah.
So they'd keep going deeper and deeper into a point and phrasing questions in such a way where you're recalling things that you wouldn't have thought to say initially.
Yeah.
So I thought they made it really comfortable. They were all really good, the examiners that I had. One was maybe a bit cryptic, but everyone else was very straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Was there one thing you guys remember that stuck out to you guys while you were doing it that you thought, oh, I wish I knew that now that I'm looking back at it, or have you just kind of forgotten?
For me, I think it was the artifacts in ultrasound. They really went into detail with that, and they wanted the mechanism. And I was like, I didn't know what I was talking about.
How about you, Pete?
I don't think anything blindsided me too bad. They went into a lot of detail about warfarin in one of my vivas.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like they were asking really specific details, like what do the different enantiomers do and things like that. And I was like, look, I know they exist. I don't know what they do.
Yeah.
Just move on?
What would be the one thing, I guess, for anyone that's watching now, that if you could tell yourself to improve on the day or anything you could have done different, is there one thing you would have done differently in your preparation?
I think maybe seek out more like actual examiners to try to do vivas with. I think that's probably the key thing, because it's the quality of the viva, not really the quantity of the viva that you do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, because me and Justin had vivas with one examiner who reached out to us, and yeah, I felt like her vivas were the best. Like they really felt like what they were on the day coming from her, compared to, you know, a consultant that hasn't sat the primary since like 15, 20 years ago, or even like a trainee that's recently done the primary.
Yeah, no, that's good. Just to give people a ballpark, how many vivas do you think you guys did before you did the actual viva?
Too many. Yeah, I think I was trying to get like one a day done.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Because I know how many vivas you guys did, and it's probably around about more than 50, less than 100, pretty close to the 100 mark, as what I'd be saying is what we would be saying. And there's a golden number that people keep quoting, is getting more than 50 vivas, and a viva is 2 topics for 10 minutes. So you guys were well beyond that. The one thing I wanted to ask you guys is, how did you guys know when to sit the exam, and when did you feel comfortable enough to sit the written exam? Because that's a big mental hurdle as well, paying the bill, actually committing to sitting the exam and knowing in yourself that you're ready to sit. Or do you ever feel ready to sit the exam?
I mean, well, me and Justin, we're both BT2, so we had no choice.
We had no choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess for me, like the first sitting this year where I could have sat, I had a course in Brisbane, and then I was just comparing myself to other people, and they seemed like on another level compared to me. I was like, oh man, like I don't think I'd do very well if I sit with these people. And I like kind of burnt out from studying like towards the end of last year and had like a big gap. So I knew I definitely wasn't ready for that. But the second time, like when, you know, for this sitting, I'd covered the curriculum at least twice. Then I was doing like random generated, you know, with Mac 95, you can do the random generated SAQs. So I never had any like blank papers or anything like that. I always had something to write about when I was doing those random papers. So I thought like I had a fighting chance for like any day.
Yeah, cool. What about you, Justin?
Well, you never feel really ready to sit this exam. So, and I had no choice. It was just the time limit thing. So you just have to sit down and commit 100% and then hope for the best.
Yeah. How long do you guys reckon you guys studied for this exam?
I reckon around 10 months for me. I started properly studying after my wedding, so after November. So proper study after November.
Yeah. And what about you, Pete?
Yeah, I probably did. Yeah, similar. I'd say like 10 to 12 months.
Yeah, cool. And if there's one piece of advice, I guess you guys are both saying, is making sure don't rush sitting the exam. Obviously, you guys came to the end of your time, so that was a main factor. But try to get through the curriculum at least 2 times before you go and sit the exam, just so you know what you're actually talking about. And I think that'll make you guys much more successful on the day, like you guys were on the viva and you knew all the topics. So if someone was about to sit right now or start studying right now, where should they begin studying?
So I would suggest getting Mac 95, obviously. And then working through the learning objectives. So doing every learning objective, just reading the recommended textbooks or other resources. And then making sure that you do every single SAQ that's been asked before. So I did every SAQ. I made a model answer for every SAQ, and then I just keep practicing that for the last 3-4 months leading up to it. I was just doing SAQ after SAQ.
Yeah. And Justin, I know that you had a nice app that you use. What was it?
I used Notion, actually.
Yeah. How does that work?
There's lots of YouTube videos on it. It's hard to describe, but essentially you just put all your notes onto this interface, and you can use it anywhere on all your devices as well. So I had my notes everywhere I went, and I also use Anki as well, which is a flashcard generating app as well, which was quite useful.
Yeah, good.
Just sign up for Adrenaline Memories as well.
Adrenaline Memories. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, the thing is, I don't think people realize that you're not truly studying until you're studying all the time at work, and work becomes study. Study becomes all the times you're off. Even on night shift, you're trying to study. That's when you know you're really actually studying properly for the exam, and that's the level that you have to get to if you want to have a real go at trying to pass this exam. And yeah, I think for anyone that's serious about trying to study now, you have to give yourself at least 10 to 12 months before you get into it. And using these apps and knowing how you study. So if you use an app or you need to write handwritten notes, trying to figure that out yourself and knowing how you study is going to be the best way to do it efficiently. What about the lead up to the written? Well, once you guys had covered the curriculum a couple of times, what was the goal in like the last month coming up to the written exam?
It was just bulk short answer questions from my end. So I was fortunate that I had a good study group. There was 3 of us. I took 3 weeks off before the written with one of the other guys, and we were doing every paper. So from the last 10 years, I think we sat and did every paper to time. So we covered like 20 papers, and by the end of it, I felt as ready as I was ever going to be.
Yeah. Nice. What about you, Justin? What did you do in the last month trying to get yourself ready?
I wrote like 5 SEQs every day, and then try to sit an exam on the weekend.
Yeah.
And just MCQs, full length MCQs as well.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really good point, MCQs, because I think that's a big hurdle for people because they leave it for the last 2 weeks thinking that it's going to be easy. You spent all your time doing SAQs. How long do you guys recommend studying for MCQs? Because 50% or 60% seems pretty easy to get, but on the day, if you've not done any practice MCQs and you fail on that, I feel like you feel really gutted compared to studying for the SAQs. So yeah, how long do you guys study for the MCQs?
A month before, and then more the week before as well. Just go through all the MCQs.
Yeah. And Mac 95 has a huge bank, right? Yeah. What about you, Peter?
I did the same thing, just a month before. Usually at night time after I'd done my paper, I'd chill out for a bit, and then I think I was doing like 50 to 75 a day. Yeah. And some of them came up on the day as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you need. You want just some to come up on the day so you feel comfortable. You know you're going to get that mark. And if you keep doing it frequently, it just becomes a rest because the SAQs are the real brain struggle. And then the MCQs are just like a rest pretty much where you can just do it before you go off to sleep or use that app and do it at work. The other thing I wanted to ask you guys is once you've done the written and you have that kind of limbo period where you don't know if you're going to get a viva, was it hard to remotivate yourselves to try to study? Did you give yourself a time? Did you give yourself a break?
I gave myself a week break, and then I was like, I should just start because I was thinking that my SAQs were not very good to bring me up, so I needed a buffer. So I started early with my viva practice.
Yeah, I was the same. I took a week off, and it was really hard to start without getting an invite, particularly because one of the SAQ questions I completely misread, and pretty much I would have got a 0 for it, I'm sure. So in the back of my mind, that was always there. But once, because we went through all the exam reports, and once you get a viva invite, it seems like it's like 80 to 90% of people seem to pass. So once I got that viva invite, and the 2 others that I was studying with both got one, we just kind of motivated each other and just started slow, like doing 1 5-minute station a day each. Once you get that viva invite, you know more than 10, 9 to 8 times out of 10 you're going to pass. So you just got to put the work in and you'll be fine.
That's right, and it's a numbers game. You got to keep remembering it's a numbers game. Once you get there, you're within your numbers. Your best chance of succeeding is your first attempt. Play the numbers game and make sure you can do that. Did you guys ever feel that you were getting viva fatigue as you got closer and closer to the day?
Yeah, I definitely got viva fatigue, as you would know, Arnie.
And so I guess how do you treat viva fatigue? Because you want to be peaking at the right time, and ideally you want to be peaking at the viva, but it's very hard to do because you're doing vivas for probably 7 weeks before you've done the actual viva on the day. So any tips on how you would treat viva fatigue? Maybe Justin, if you felt that you had that.
Yeah, just take a couple of days off, like what you recommended. Just take, 1 day off or something, and just, do the things that you would like to do, like exercise, go out for dinner, spend time with your family, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's like the real hidden message when you're doing the studying. People always say, especially when you were trying to get on the program, and people ask you how you're getting on the anesthetic program, how you're going to cope with sitting to the exam. You say, I have good coping mechanisms. I have my family, I have sports. But did you guys feel like you lost your love for your passions as you studied?
Yeah, definitely. There was literally nothing that I was doing apart from studying. Like I wasn't setting time aside for like anything else really.
Yeah.
Particularly those last 3 months, I'd say.
Yeah.
Mm.
How do you go about now? It's been a week. Do you feel a bit empty? I know I felt a bit empty once I sat the exam. I didn't really know what to do with my life for a couple of days. How are you guys feeling now?
Yeah, it's a bit anticlimactic, isn't it? You're like, is that it? And then there's this massive void in your life, and you're like, what do I do with my life? The housework maybe, or I don't know, like.
Well, do you guys even believe it? I never believed that I passed until I got that paper, and it's a underwhelming piece of congratulation paper. It's smaller than an A4 piece of paper, and it says you've passed, and you're just like, come on, we did all this, and that's all we get. But until you get that, I still don't believe it. I feel like every day I was waiting for an email. I don't know if you guys feel like that, waiting for an email saying, oh, we made a mistake. You didn't pass. You have to resit again.
We had the so for ours they had the drinks after.
Yes.
So they posted like the numbers on the wall. So I think that was the first time they've done it since COVID. So yeah, I had to go back to the board a couple of times to check that the number was still there.
Yeah. And so I guess the last thing I wanted to ask you guys is, how has life changed? I know, Pete, you haven't been back to work yet. You're still on your break after the exam, but maybe Justin, how's life changed going back to work now that you're post-primary?
Well, I've just been on night shift, and so I haven't really come in contact with anyone. So I can't really give you a good answer, Arnie. Sorry. Hasn't really changed, to be honest. Obstetrics will always be obstetrics.
I think what happens is that all of a sudden this blanket is like lifted, and all the bosses that you work with now just seem to have way more trust in you. Nothing's changed from the day before you sat the viva to the day after you sat the viva. Your level of knowledge is still the same. Your level of clinical skill is still the same. But now all of a sudden the boss is like, are you post-primary? Yes. And they're like, okay, I have like X more amount of trust in you. And it's such a funny thing where I don't know what the science behind it is, but it's just a mental thing that you've achieved it. And brings us back to a topic where I think anyone who didn't get through, it's not the end of the world, and it doesn't mean that your clinical skills are not as good as someone that's passed the primary. It has no major reflection on how you do your day-to-day work. What kind of advice would you give to anyone that's been through this now and has to resit?
I would just say you really need to find other people that are sitting with you that are motivated, so that you can hold each other accountable, and you can also see where the bar is at compared to other people. So I think my study group was really essential, like having two people that were just as motivated, that would, say, do you want to study today? And you can't say no to that. So I'd be doing more study with them than I would be by myself, and then just comparing each other. So we'd mark each other's papers. So if someone was off track, you could kind of guide them back, or even if you were off track, you kind of understand where other people were like coming from with their responses. So I really think, particularly those last 2-3 months where you're just doing a lot of SAQs, having a study group where you guys do SAQs to time together and then review each other and mark each other's papers. I think that's like vital for passing, honestly.
Yeah, so study group and accountability, and actually sticking with a study group. I feel like you're right. How often were you guys meeting with a study group initially, and did that change as you got closer and closer to the day?
Yeah, so I mean, like we probably started only like 6 6 months out or something like that. But we'd only be meeting like once a week. Everyone would bring one SAQ, and then they'd have a model answer to that SAQ. We'd do the 3 SAQs together, and then everyone give their model answer and mark each other.
Yeah.
But it obviously ramped up as we got closer to the dates. And then, 2-3 weeks out, we were meeting pretty much every day doing a paper together.
Yeah. And I guess study group's one way of doing it, and it's making sure that your level of knowledge is the same as other people's knowledge. And I think that's the usefulness, but it's not the be all and end all, because we all know that we all work in different places. Some of us are rural, and it might not be as easy to have a study group. I know, Justin, you didn't have a study group until very late in the period, or didn't have one at all. What would you recommend in terms of how you went with preparation?
Well, yeah, I didn't really have a study group, did I? But I sought out help from like the ex-examiner, like Annette Turley, and I got you to mark my papers as well. So there's always a way to get by without a study group. And so I just sought out other trainees to mark my answers, and I followed Stan Chay's study prep routine as well.
Yeah.
And he's got a WhatsApp group where all the different candidates that are sitting from all over Australia and New Zealand in the WhatsApp group. And that's also good, very good resource as well.
Yeah.
So all the isolated trainees from all different locations could be on the same WhatsApp group, and we can share our resources and things like that. So that was really good.
Yeah. And I think what the general theme is that no matter which way you study, if you don't have a study group, you're a bit of an introvert, you want to study yourself, you have to push yourself to at least be exposed to being critiqued. And if you don't do that, that's a big hurdle. You have to let yourself be critiqued by other people. If that means someone else marking your questions or a boss marking your questions, because in your head, you don't know where you sit, and you might be super confident or not confident at all, but you just need to get yourself critiqued and marked. And it's not a criticism, it's more of a feedback. That's really important. And so you need to find people that you trust that will give you good feedback, that have been through it before. I think that's really important. So yeah, thanks guys for all the awesome insight into, I guess, getting through the primary. The next part is just enjoying life. What do you guys got planned for the next kind of 6 months?
Chill out.
Just relax.
Learn how to like your interests and passions again slowly. No, great work, guys. Thank you guys for joining me again. Congratulations again on getting through the primary. Enjoy this moment. Enjoy the next 6-12 months before you start studying for the fellowship again. You guys have deserved it. Congratulations. And we'll catch you next time on Sweet Dreams Anesthesia.
Good. Thanks, Alan.